I've been hitting it. And then you texted me later, and I was like, just what? Like,
She emailed me back like literally the next day and said thanks, I got it.
good. But the next day,
Is that like attached it in the email to you?
that was smart. That was smart. Yeah,
How did she like?
it did take She did hers like really good. She did hers in a word. So it was like totally different. We need more chairs.
I didn't know if I was doing it right.
I didn't either. I was just kind of like going off first, but she did have something to go up there. And there is no piece of that. It was like students having but like every single
She seems pretty like I didn't go to that. I was like,
I was in the job fair yesterday, so I didn't go to that. I should probably. I just went to that one because
where I'm at now is
yeah.
I'm just like I want to have me at work all day. So like I should also like
Hey, why are you riding? Are you American if you don't stand up to the Hey, what are you riding? Are you American if you don't stand up for the national anthem? Hey, I appreciate you. I totally agree with that. I think if you don't have the decency to stand for our national anthem, you shouldn't be in this country.
Yeah.
Is that really how you guys feel?
I mean, it's just a question.
So I'm not American if I don't stand up for the national anthem.
How can you not stand? People have lost their lives. People have went and died, risked their lives. Like, how can you not stand for them?
First of all, I have uncles, I have grandparents.
I have a mother.
I have family members who have literally given their lives, risked their lives for this country in wars and still had to come back and face segregation as soon as they got back. What do you have to say about that?
We'll stop there. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Julian Wright. I am an admissions counselor in undergraduate admissions and the Associate Director of the Diversity Student Leader Society here for the College of Communication and Information at UT. And we welcome you to our session, Bridging Hidden Divides. As you see, we have a panelist up here, and this discussion is something very recent, something we've all seen in the media and on Twitter and on Instagram over and over and over and over and over again for the past few weeks with our NFL players and a few associates thereof. So we wanted to go ahead and discuss what usually we have a panelist up here. We are now transitioning, and you are my panelists. So we'll be talking to you individually. If you have something to share, please raise your hand. Let's be respectful to each other. Allow everyone to get their thoughts and their opinions out, and we'll move forward accordingly. So we just saw our first scene. As these individuals stand here, I do want to ask, is her response to not standing for the pledge acceptable? Don't all raise your hands at once.
There's no right or wrong answer.
No right or wrong answer. Open discussion. Open vibe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Can someone tell me why is it acceptable? Why they feel?
Freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech. Who enjoys their freedom of speech? I know I do. All right. May talk too much sometimes, but I enjoy it. All right. Really awesome. So we definitely want to look at that, but I also want to ask you all. We always want to be respectful of people's values, their opinions, and where they come from. But is there a certain line that you can cross when discussing something as sensitive as this? Do you feel like there's a way you could cross a line in conversation? I see you nodding your head. Would you like to share a little bit? Sorry for putting you on the spot. I love you.
Well,
this, like, the whole thing started with Colin Kaepernick about race issues. So, like, people are really sensitive, especially today, about race issues. So some people can take things offensively when you don't mean them to be, and sometimes people are, like, super mean about it. And so I think that, like, during this conversation, if you're, like, uninformed and don't really know how to respond to one another, you can come across the wrong way and be offensive and cross that line that some of us has.
Thank you. So I want to hear from this side of the room. It's a little quiet over here. We're gonna get some energy going. What, if anything, did you learn from this dramatization? I'll start off by saying I learned that life is truly about perspectives and where you come from and where you stand, how you've grown up and what you've dealt with and what you've been through is going to be how you express your opinion towards certain subjects and certain subject matters. So that's just me, but I definitely want to still hear from this side of the room here.
I think I've learned that, oh no. I think I've learned that whether I agree with the certain movements or not, that I've learned to respect other people's views and opinions, even if I don't agree with it, if that makes sense. Like, I respect that that is what they believe. Yeah,
Awesome.
okay, yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you
Did
so
you have
much.
a hand raised? Yeah.
There's a hand in the back, a tall hand.
I'll project my voice.
Okay.
I hope this one will say out loud. So, I just want to say real quick, I'm in the back, can't really, be too involved because I'm behind everybody, but, real quick, I would like to say, about all these matters, it's like, that old saying, sticks and stones can break my bones, but words, can never harm me. It's like, it goes for life, honestly. The only person that we can control in this room is ourselves. So, like, ultimately, like, if you guys just love, respect, yourselves, whatever other people are doing around you, it really doesn't matter too much. So, for you guys, like, I love all y'all. Like,
I love you too.
I love you too.
I don't know all y'all, like, personally, or what your story's about, but everybody has a story. It's different in some ways. We've all been through hardships, we've all been through challenges, but, so, like, all this matter, are you American? I mean, what is American? What does American mean to, what does it mean to you? We're all people. We're all human beings. American, that's a title, that's a label. So is black, white, Hispanic, nationalities, that's a label. So ultimately, love yourselves. I love you guys, just know that. And then all that will do is just correlate. It'll just, everybody else will feel love from you loving yourself.
We can end right there. Thank you so much.
The response is where?
Yes, sir.
I guess like for me, it's different from what everybody else says. Everybody else says that everybody's got their own opinion. Yes, you can say you can love yourself, but also it ultimately, as he said, it's with you. Always have to make sure you have your mind as wide open as possible. You can't jump to a certain conclusion. Like say for the question, saying like you're not American if you do that. She has every right to defend like what she believes. And then as that person, you have to open your mind up and say, okay, what can I do to de-escalate the situation to where it can turn into a normal conversation instead of an argument or a fight? Because that's exactly what's been going on nowadays. So you have to figure out a way to not only de-escalate the situation, but have more understanding for each other.
Communicate. Why we're all here.
Excellent. Excellent. So can I ask, since we love each other and we know how to communicate and we know how to see eye to eye from different perspectives, why doesn't Colin Kaepernick have a job?
Really simple, because a lot of people out there don't agree with them. And they take that to heart. And it's quite simply, the reason why people don't want that is because they're like, oh, we don't want that attention, we don't want that drama towards us and to our NFL team and to our community.
Personally, just like I don't think football is a place for it. I think that football, I'm a huge Cowboys fan. And like the other day, I was wearing my Cowboys t-shirt on Tuesday, and someone came up to me and was like, do you agree that you shouldn't stand for the national anthem? And I was like, why is this divisive now? Like, I think football was something that brought everyone together and like made people like cheer together no matter your race, nationality, religion, and now it's something so divisive. And so personally, I don't think it's a place where just.
Thank you. There's a hand in the back.
I think it's the perfect platform for it. Like, okay, if you have the ability to reach thousands of people, why not do it? you think about it, like, thousands of people from every different political, racial, religious background, we all love that entertainment. So if one person can make one person think, why are we doing these things? Like, why do I have this innate bias in myself? Or, like, why are they kneeling? And they search and they look up police brutality, they look up all these things. It's the best platform to educate people. Like, me as a person, I have, like, 200 Twitter followers. I'm not doing that much right now. But these people have made it a global thing. And that's the issue of why they have to do this, where people have to look at them. When you have thousands of cameras looking at you, that's literally making your point so known that we will not stand for this anymore. That's why I think, like, yeah, it sucks. Oh no, you can't have easy entertainment anymore. But easy entertainment is killing our issues and killing these platforms. And so these people that are bold enough to say, I want this platform to grow and I want it to be something where people can see real issues, because this is the only way I can do it, I applaud that.
Thank you so much.
I have something to add.
Okay.
I had two things. I had something else, but I will, wait, what'd you say?
Then we're gonna go.
I don't need the mic just yet, but I will say, I will piggyback off that. I really respect that, like, yes, because I feel like whenever people do try to, whenever the oppressed try to say that they're oppressed in any other form or fashion, someone's always like, oh my gosh, like, they're too aggressive. Why are they marching in the streets? Why are they doing that? But now they do something as simple as just, like, not standing. Everyone's like, oh my god, like, it's so crazy. But anyways, I will say that this has been happening for the past, like, year and a half, I feel like. And I think the reason that we're all talking about this now is because randomly Donald Trump decided to tweet about it. Right? Maybe, right? Okay, I really feel like he decided to randomly tweet about it because it's taking us away, like, it's dividing us and taking us away from other issues at hand. Like the fact that North Korea is probably about to shut them off. That's other stuff, let's talk about that. But yeah, that's my opinion on that matter.
Thank you. We'll go here and then we'll jump in the back.
Well, I don't think we're talking about police brutality anymore. We're talking about the national anthem. It is completely diverted from the real issue. Like, that says, are you saying the national anthem not should, is there a racial divide in the police, whatever. So I think it's completely, like, it's a completely separate issue. It is, like, in protest, I'm all for protesting what you believe, but again, your service members have found it completely disrespectful, and you kind of got to, I think there's a certain way you should do your message, and I think they do have that platform. They can tweet about it. They can do so many things other than sit down for the national anthem, which doesn't give their message.
What do you think they should do though?
They can tweet, they can help, they can, like, okay, random Snoop Dogg went and met with the police, like, and started talking to them about what he could do. And that made headlines everywhere. Like I saw it was on, like, I watched Fox News, fun fact, and that was all over that. And it was like I think that's positive change, and I think we need to bring people together to stop this problem, because right now it's becoming like a white and black issue. Like, I've never felt, like, I have a black brother, and, like, it's kind of weird, like, he feels weird, and, like, it kind of sucks because it's not these issues, everyone's going polar opposites on the divide rather than trying to come to a middle or, like, understand each other, because
I
we
think
don't feel
there is
comfortable
a
with
way
dialogue.
though, I mean, I will say you having a black brother, I feel like he would eventually start feeling weird at one point in his life anyways, like whether or not anything was gonna happen, like this would happen. But I don't know.
Can we go back here in the back? Then we'll go over here to you, and then we're gonna move on to our next segment. Okay. Yeah.
So as we were talking about people kneeling and saying, like, there's a time and place to do that, and there's a huge argument about freedom of speech, which we were just talking about, how it's disrespectful to veterans. But, I mean, the whole point of having people in our services is to defend our rights. So you're saying, well, we want you to defend our rights, but we can't use them. So I think that that's kind of interesting and kind of icky at the same time. And the other thing is, I actually watched a video this morning about, it was titled, "When Are Black People Allowed to Protest?" And it was saying, like, you can't kneel for the national anthem. They're being criticized for marching in the streets. Somebody was criticizing Stevie Wonder for kneeling at his own concert. They're like, "Well, do it on your own time." It's like, that is his own time. That could be. That's what he's doing with his time. So it was just a really interesting thing to think about. That, like, when have they not been criticized for protesting?
Good question.
Just in my opinion, like, especially NFL terms, but if we want to think like racially over all of these years how we've evolved, it hasn't come by taking a knee. You don't eventually make $16 million a year in the NFL from sitting back. And I understand completely kind of the flag of saying, I'm kneeling for this cause. I understand that completely. But what I need to have on the other side of things is, because yeah, I'm a regular white Christian girl, so people look at me in terms of police diversity when you don't know my background.
You're still diverse.
So, yeah, thank you. So if you're gonna sit there though, and you put your flag up and you say, I gotta put my foot down for something, and you take your stand on that, the least that that person needs to do is turn around with that other half in the back of their mind and say, I am probably upsetting veterans, I am probably upsetting people who have lost their lives, and what I can do to respect that is turn around tomorrow, get up before my workouts, and go into that community and make a difference. Because I'm not gonna sit here with my $16 million paycheck, keep pocketing it, and sit down for the national anthem and expect change. They got up for those 6 a.m. workouts year after year after year after injury, and they got on that field to make however many plays they wanted to. We came back from people having to sit on the back of the bus from years after years after years of standing up for what is right and actively making differences. So in my opinion, if you're okay with getting involved in this, which is absolutely someone's right to do, you've got to be able to turn around and say, how else can I keep making change? Not how can I keep dividing people because they may be upset with me. How can I prove them I'm doing this for the right reason?
Do you think in order to make change that sometimes the division is what happens? That's pretty much how America was started, if you think about it. So people in Europe were like, yo, I don't like this, let's divide, and then like a whole country was made.
Justin, and then
I have a very-
we'll move forward.
I have a very quick question. How many people in here have military families? Parents. Okay, so you'll understand where I'm coming from. So it's a larger issue of they may have served as many years in the military, but coming from a Japanese standpoint, on a military base in Japan, my mother never stood up for the national anthem. It was never an issue, okay? It's not a matter of disrespecting the military necessarily, okay? The bigger issue is who tweeted it and how are people reacting to that tweet, for example, right? Or who's replying to the post, how are they reacting to the post? And I think our excuse is that it disrespects the military, and I'm gonna put that in quotes because I don't think it necessarily does. If someone chooses to make a decision, it's not, it may be in the back of their head, and I love that you said, wake up the next day and make changes, yes, but my father woke up for 28 years at 4 a.m. and made a difference. And he never got mad at my mom for not staying up for the national anthem.
Side note, I have a friend, my best friend, she's black, she's in the National Guard. She wakes up every morning at 5 a.m. for the same reason. She still has to face racism. She's a bisexual black woman, she's 22 years old. She still has to face all the issues that come along with that in the military, if not more than she would have been facing if she were to be in like a college environment where we're, like, even if we don't agree, we're able to have these conversations and talk, It's a little bit different when it's like some 50-year-old, like, middle-aged guy from the middle of nowhere in Tennessee trying to tell her that, she's not right because she likes boys and girls and she's black and she's like really black, like afro, braids, twist black, you know what I'm saying? So I find it so funny when people try to use the military excuse. Same with what I said in the skit about having grandparents who had to fight for this country and then having to come back and still told that you can't eat at the same facility as somebody that you've been eating with in what was that? Like Vietnam, World War II, you've been eating with these same people this whole time and overseas, but when you come back here, they're just like, oh wait, by the way, you're still black, he's still white, y'all can't do that. So to think that that's a reason to be like, oh no, they fought in the military, like, you gotta say there's so many Japanese Americans, black Americans, Hispanic Americans that do the same thing, you're still facing that stuff, so, but yeah.
Thank you.
Move on to the next thing.
Okay. One more. I saw you raise your hand. I didn't want to leave you out. Then we'll move on to our next thing. Yes, sir.
This will be short. I just have like 2 questions. I want to ask one, why does it matter if these people are making however many $1 million to do their jobs? Why can't they still presence? Because
You absolutely can, but maybe some of that money should not go to your nice house and your nice car. It should go into those communities. You should go to schools, start programs that can help implement extending everybody on the same playing field.
A
That's
lot of these players.
Colin's
are
been doing that.
If we're talking about Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick has donated so much money over the last year, not just to police brutality, but also like he donated so much money just like to Somalia when they were in trouble. I think that's like really important that these people are making a difference and they're right to be able to go out onto the NFL field. Where most people will see it, the most visible time is the time that they can make their stand. I think that's really important. They're allowed to do that, and it's something that's protected by the First Amendment. And then two, I don't have like a long thing to follow up this question because I just want to ask it to be done. But why are so many people madder about the protests than they are about actual police brutality?
It was why are so many people so mad about the protests more than they're mad about police brutality?
Again, I'm all about protest. I think there's a time and a place for it, and when you should do it, you should probably be effective if you're gonna do it. And I think the problem I have with their protest is that it's made the country more divided. And it has made something that was a come together moment more divisive. And no, I was just saying, like, that's like one activity. That's like one activity that like we can all like agree on. Does that make sense? And like have fun with it. It's not like our main thing. And I think it's just more dividing the country, and that's my problem.
I just want to share 1920, women didn't have the right to vote until 1920, and that was done through protest.
I said I'm all for protest.
Yeah,
That's like this time and place. I just like want to be clear. I'm not like.
All right, we'll go ahead and move to our next scene. Oh, I'm sorry.
Because I walked all the way up.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
I was just gonna say that like earlier when you were like life is all about perspective, there are a lot of people in the country that feel like as just like a regular citizen that they don't have like a voice, and whether it be like their government or in like just social issues that are going on. So a lot of times like as an athlete, especially when you belong to like a minority group, you feel like as a person that is in the public eye, you have a duty to be the person that steps up and says something for all these people that don't have a voice. And a lot of people on the news are saying like, you know, oh, they make $16 million a year, they should just be quiet and not complain. But if this was Tom Brady we were talking about that was protesting something else, no one would be like, oh, you should just be grateful that you're a quarterback, sit down and be quiet. Like, these people may be rich, but it's the point that America looks at them like, oh, you've been afforded with the opportunity to throw a football for a couple of $1 million, so you should just be grateful for that and go away.
That wasn't true when Tim Tebow wasn't allowed to take a bath in the end zone. It was
Tim Tebow took so
considered
many
controversial
pictures
for him to be
of
praying in the end zone. So that wasn't case for a white male.
Can never be too thankful though. So, I mean, take a knee after you score, what's wrong with that?
And I do think it's interesting that this is such a big topic now, because if you think of NFL just maybe a decade and a half ago, players didn't even come out until the pledge was over, until the national anthem was over. So they started to do that because the military actually donated money to the NFL to get the teams to do the pledge, to get the Americans more together outside of sports and inside of sports. So it was a military tactic and a monetary tactic as well. But a lot of people just don't know the history of that. But yeah, back then they didn't even come out for the national anthem. So I was very shocked that it was even that big of an issue now.
And mind you, we wouldn't be having this conversation if Colin Kaepernick decided, oh, I'm just gonna only take knees after I score. This wouldn't even be a conversation. I think they want us to have this conversation. They want us to have a space where we can sit and talk about these things as like a community. So I'm saying my point.
Well, we'll move forward to our next scene. It is called The Restaurant.
Hi, my name is Deanna. I'll be a server tonight. How may I help you?
Hi there.
Hi, can we get 2 cheeseburgers?
Chocolate shakes.
Yes, chocolate shakes.
Fries.
Fries, yes, fries,
Ketchup.
yes.
Yep.
And a water. Can we get a water?
Yeah,
2 waters?
I'll be right
One,
back.
not the other.
All right.
Excuse me, can I get some service here?
That's your table over there. You better go hop it.
I cannot serve gay people. It goes against my grain.
Grain or no grain, you have to serve those people. They're in your area.
I don't believe in gay marriage or relationships. It just, it goes against everything I've been taught.
No can do. This is the real world. Do your job.
Can you please just help me out and get my table? I don't want the boss to know that I'm homophobic.
Was that response acceptable? Don't all talk at once. We start off slow, but we got real good and going next time. So, out of this scene, we have a biracial couple here. We have a biracial couple and a homosexual couple here. So, based on the response of this waitress, do you feel that it was appropriate and did it respect the value and perspective of others? Oh, you're fine. All right, fire her was the response. So from that, I guess the answer is no. And we'll go to you, sir.
I think you can disagree with, like, for instance, gay marriage without being a homophobe or being homophobic. So it's not so much a matter of the individual person, just the institution. But you can still respect that person, respect those people, without being labeled as a homophobic. I don't know if this works. Oh, it does work. So yeah, that's.
Okay. Sir?
I think that one thing to remember, coming from an interracial background, like for instance, me being interracial, not a lot of people come from a background where they see that as acceptable. So I'm not going to use the microphone. I'm sorry, I can't. Okay, so being myself, sometimes people look at me, especially like older white males, might think, you know, why is your mom with a black guy? Just like older black people might think that, why is your husband or why is your dad with a white woman? And so I would just like, this is something I would just like to share. If as a society, if we're trying to make a change, whether it be towards more accepting of interracial couples or more accepting of same-sex marriage, to instantly jump down somebody's throat just because they disagree with what we say is not the proper way to do it. Just like with the whole NFL situation. The best way to be able to change someone's perspective is to try to show them why it is that you think the way that you do, to help them understand what it is. Because people who don't have the same kind of the experiences that we have had as an individual, they won't be able to understand, they won't be able to see why it is we believe that way. So the best way to be able to handle situations like that would be just to try to, instead of instantly getting mad at that person, would be to try to help them understand what it is and the reason why you believe that way. So I'd just like to share that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. You like that tie too.
Thank you. And not just my socks.
Excellent. Great response. Greater tie and sock combo. Thank you so much. I did see another hand.
I don't know if you can follow that up.
Close that one out. Okay. Well,
I have a
definitely.
great upside comment.
Okay.
I will say, I don't know your name, sir, man.
I'm Dan.
Hey, Dan. I'm Natalie. I was gonna say, so yeah, I agree with what you're saying, how it kind of comes down to the institution. When you said that, it made me think about Chick-fil-A and how, like, Chick-fil-A, you know, they're super, super, super Christian. So Christian to the point where, like, you can't even eat there on Sunday as well. So, like, with that being said, even though the CEO of Chick-fil-A has openly said, hey, I don't like gay people, and people are like, whoa, that's so crazy, but like, they don't not serve gay people just because they don't like, or just because the CEO doesn't like them. Like, he understands. To me, that's another thing with money, like, you don't want to lose money on that. But, like, with that being said, I don't know, you shouldn't, I'm talking to you like,
I was like, yeah, I don't actually feel that way.
Yeah, she doesn't actually feel that way.
She's excellent, first of all.
But with that being said, you know, yeah, you can, it's okay to not like a certain kind of person. I hate to say that. The issue, I feel like, with the world today is more about humanity. Just because you may not like the way someone just is or what they think about what their views are, so they're still a human at the end of the day. So to be like, oh, I don't want to serve them when your job is literally to serve is crazy, in my opinion.
Of course, always keeping in mind, and we'll go back here, that there is legal framework around sexuality with businesses. So even if your personal opinion gets in the way, you still have a legal standpoint to respect them no matter their sexuality. Yes, sir. Dan.
Okay, so thank you for that. So with all due respect, Dan Cathy said he doesn't not like gay people, it's just the institution of gay marriage.
Oh.
So he didn't attack gay people or say that about gay people. But if
if you go to Chick-fil-A, yeah, they serve people, so they don't discriminate based on that. So like I said, I think that's a perfect example of you can disagree with the institution or policies or, just like what you believe and still be able to respect like that type of person. And
That's still diversity, yeah.
Yes, so that's where I applaud Chick-fil-A too.
I also applaud Chick-fil-A.
I know Jake Cathy, the CEO of Chick-fil-A. I actually know him pretty well. I've gone on vacation with him a couple times.
Lit.
Life goals.
He's a cool guy.
Up though.
He actually really like it's not about gay, black, white, whatever. When the terrorist attack happened in Orlando, I don't know what that. When it happened in Orlando, he actually went down there and it was a gay nightclub. And he was down there the night that it happened. It was in, I believe it was Miami. He went up and drove to Orlando to help their families, to be and show love to them. And I think that's the difference. That yeah, like he's a Christian and that's what he believes, and personally that's what I believe. And I work at a restaurant. I work with gay people. They are some of my best friends, and I love them. Do I disagree with what they believe in, and specifically like what their life choices are? Yeah, but I don't treat them differently. I think that's kind of a touchy thing, especially with Chick-fil-A. They're like, oh man, they hate gay people. No, Chick-fil-A.
Okay, yeah, that was an
loves gay
extreme
people.
statement. I'm retracting it. They don't I mean, what did I say? They don't like gay people?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it's just causing more divide, and that's again, it's this person to person. Relationships are much different than when you block things in certain situations. And I've lived in a Muslim country, and people say, oh, well, they're all terrorists. They're not. They're wonderful people. Like they're great. I love them. And I think that's the difference is you're blocking stereotyping people versus seeing it as we're all human and we all believe different things. And maybe I think Colin Kaepernick is getting overpaid to sit down, on a football field and play a game. But if he believes a certain thing, who am I to say that he shouldn't believe that? Who am I to say that you shouldn't believe what you believe and I shouldn't believe what I believe? And it's just this disagreement that doesn't need to happen necessarily because person to person, we're all just trying to get through this world together. And I think that, when you kind of step back and realize that you don't have all the answers, that's when you kind of gain more perspective about what other people believe.
what's your name?
Zach.
We're friends now.
All right, I definitely agree with you, Zach. I definitely am. One thing I always say, we're all human, and I know we're all human because all of the oxygen was sucked out of this room right now. Black, white, tall, short, gay, straight, we are. All right? So that's how I know we are truly on one accord in life, and we need to find and look inside of each other and see how we can learn to love and work together in tandem, because that'll take us further. No matter if I go to Chick-fil-A in a suit or if I go to Chick-fil-A after cutting the grass, it is always their pleasure. And that's why I love Chick-fil-A. Great example. Yes, ma'am. Then we're going to go over here.
I find that very problematic.
Okay.
When you're saying, I believe what I believe, you believe what you believe, let's put that in a very large scale, right? So I could be a racist, but as long as I'm not acting upon that racism, it's technically me doing me. So that's what you're saying, it's fine. I believe what I believe, as long as I'm not fully harming you and oppressing you physically or emotionally, it's okay. Because when you're saying, I have a weird, I don't fully agree with the idea of homosexuality. That's a personal bias that you have that you're subconsciously gonna project, which that in self is oppressive. So when you see someone walking down the street and they have a rainbow flag pin, even if you're not projectively yelling at them that they're a fag, that's still you saying in your head that you have these personal biases and projecting them on someone.
Okay.
That's so problematic because having that idea of you do you, I do me, isn't allowing people to grow together. And that's not allowing people to be able to end the suppression that we have because we're not really saying, okay, this is wrong, because it's just your views.
So many hands just went.
We're going to go over here.
Yeah, and to completely piggyback off what you just said, I completely agree with that statement, and also with our terminology here today. I feel like so many people are talking about how things are creating division, but division is just there. It's just already there. There's no oh, this is just creating. That division was already there, and what people are trying to do is stop it or to like learn from it, because like education of these terms and like what we go through is like most important, but no one's educating themselves, they're just too busy fighting.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Okay, so
What's your name, man?
Amon.
Amon.
I understand your point of view. Here's an example. My grandfather, super Republican. This guy, I went to breakfast with him one day. It was right before I graduated. He was like, you know, you can't trust many news stations anymore except for Fox News. And I was like, well, you know, Grandpa, I said, like I said before, I'm interracial. So that means my dad is black, my mom is white. And before my dad actually married my mother, my grandpa didn't really want the relationship to happen. And that's not his fault, and I don't see it as his fault because he was raised in Mississippi. And if you know anything about Mississippi, that was pretty racist down there. So just like and it's not anybody's fault just because they might believe something that I know, but could you let me finish my point, please? So the purpose of, I believe, as being humans is to learn and grow from one another. And so just like, for instance, I personally believe that it is wrong to discriminate against someone because of their color, or because of their ethnicity, or because of their sexuality. We have to remember that, just like I said earlier, if we continue to charge things like, if somebody is racist, I don't like them, or if somebody's gay, I don't like them. We have to remember that to be able to inform those people, we have to be open-minded, and to remember that if someone's racist and I come up to them and it's like, you're wrong because you're racist, they're probably not going to give a shit about what I got to say. I'm sorry, pardon my French, but that's the truth, and I would just like to share that again. So.
Thank you. I know that in life, even coming to UT from North Nashville, I had to become comfortable with being uncomfortable with differences. Especially as a minority student here, you know that minority percentage is low if you've ever looked at those records. So to be at UT, and I honestly think if you see a minority student at UT, they want to be here, okay? Because to go somewhere unfamiliar, to go somewhere where there's not a lot of people that look like you, takes bravery and takes comfortability. So I definitely want to help people to see eye to eye, skin color to skin color, gender to gender, just to better understand one another. And like you said, that takes communicating, that takes getting to know somebody and sharing that point, but not being rude about it and not being so stern about it. Some people are like, blah, 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 and they try to shove it down your throat, but it's not the way to do it. And sometimes you get frustrated trying to get points across to people, but you can't get frustrated and give up. You can't get frustrated and get mad. You have to get frustrated and get smarter and learn how to communicate with them thoroughly. Yes, ma'am.
So I'm going to kind of diverge. Does this even work? I feel like
it does.
It goes to a
camera.
It goes to a camera. Oh, okay. So I'm going to kind of diverge from like the main point of what we're talking about. If you think about it these days, like all the issues we're talking about have been going on for so long. Like it's not like any of this is new. It's all like resurfacing because now we all have this platform to portray our opinions, our beliefs, everything, and that's social media. Like all of this is in our minds all the time now because there's videos everywhere. There's people posting stuff. There's mass posts and everything that has, you know, everybody's opinions, and now we've been given this platform to just throw everything we believe into this one big pot, and everyone is forced to look at it, and none of us, you know, even though we don't agree with things, we still sit there on Facebook or Twitter, read the stuff we don't agree with, get all worked up, and you know, we respond in a negative way. A lot of people these days aren't educated on the topics they're talking about, and they're using social media to just, you know, talk about their own opinion. But you have to come back to the point that we are the product of our own environment. Everyone thinks differently, and I mean, social media is a big thing right now, and I feel like it's used to kind of create this divide. Like, we have been given the opportunity to attack each other all the time, constantly. And like, nobody strays away from that to come back to real life, to live in this moment, in this day, and just enjoy the people next to us. And instead are just talking about things that have truly been happening since day one, you know? And none of these issues that we're talking about right now are new at all. And the only reason they seem to be new is because of the internet, social media, news, fake news, all of that. It's literally a scheme to get us to attack each other, to divide from coming together. Like, when do you see positive stuff on social media anymore? It is rare. Like, that was the point, was to connect with people. I mean, there's some funny videos, and stuff. But like, the point of social media originally was to connect people. And now we use it to just reflect our own beliefs, and it usually ends in arguments, and like, it's stupid. Like, so if I could give anyone advice, just don't believe everything you see on social media. Don't believe all the posts, all the videos. Make sure you check your sources when you share stuff. Like not everything you see is real, no matter how credible it looks. And just don't forget, like, these issues we're talking about have been going on for a long time, and just, try to be a part of the change and like the good in the world instead of worrying about what everyone else thinks.
I want to piggyback off of that.
All right, we're gonna move forward. We got one more comment over here, then we gotta move
I have a
forward.
random side comment.
Oh my gosh, Julian.
I'm listening over here.
Okay. Sure?
No, I wanna hear what you got to say. Okay.
I was gonna say, I feel like.
Okay, there's one back here.
Oh, you're welcome up there. I feel like one issue when people are debating with each other is that you're listening to the other person, the first thing you think about is, oh my gosh, what is different? Like, what's wrong with what they're saying? Like, you try to find, oh, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And I've noticed lately what I've been trying to do when I talk to people who I know completely think differently than me is, oh, like, what do they think that I think is also right? Like, what are they thinking that kind of matches with what I think about, even though they still somehow got to this crazy logical fallacy in my head. So I don't know. Does that make sense, guys? Yeah. So like, think about what connects you with people when you're in the middle of that debate. Don't think about always what divides.
I just want to make a quick comment on the you do you versus me do me thing and how like that doesn't work.
Can you speak up
on the what? Yeah, sorry, I'm a little nervous. I think the comment about you do you versus me do me not working, I don't think that's what diversity is about at all. It's not to make our thought processes homogenous. It's about to accept the differences in our thought processes. So I may not think that, I'm not saying this is true, but I may not think that it's okay to be gay for religious reasons or background, the way I was raised, but that doesn't mean that I should change that thought process. I think it means that I should still accept people who have a different thought process. Anyway.
So definitely want to work on listening to understand and not listening to respond.
We have an expert in the audience. Do we want to have any of our experts?
Can we call a doctor, please?
Do we call in a lifeline for a doctor? Yes, Dr. Wright, can you want to comment here before we go into our next area? Lifeline, please. Okay, here we go, Lifeline.
I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Don't want to scare you. I won't be here for long. I just want to sit on the table. Do you want me to start from the beginning all the way to
Whatever you
just
can
this
do
one
real
point?
quick, like so.
I mean, I think there's several interesting points. First, thoroughly enjoyed the dialogue and the contributions, so thank you all for your participation and our group up front, doing everything that they did so well. A lot of the issues, I teach courses in conflict to kind of give you some background of where I'm coming from. Part of our significant challenge is looking at self as opposed to others, right? And being so confident in our assertions about the motivations behind other people's behaviors and what's problematic about them. So we have to be mindful when we feel almost entitled to comment on someone else's journey and how they should behave, as opposed to trying to understand it. So when we look at, I guess we can start with the football discussion. I think there's several interesting points there. One, I don't think I've ever heard Kaepernick say, "I demand a job." It has been a protest where he is willing to accept the consequences. Other people have decided to advocate for him having a job. He seems to be content with losing a job if that's the consequence for the position that he's taken. So even in the frustration with him taking a knee, Really, our frustration, if you are bothered by the protests and the division, is towards the people advocating and turning this into an employment issue, which still isn't why he's taking a knee. I think another interesting point, when people talk about a right time and place, and we have all those rules and regulations that help us in terms of social norms to go about the business that we have to do. So those rules are helpful, but does anyone complain about the amount of money spent for hot pink tennis shoes and gloves and jerseys on the college level and the professional level during Breast Cancer Awareness Month? Does anyone say a word about that?
I don't think there's allowed to wear pink.
College level and pro. They'll have gloves, trust me, promise.
Sorry.
But even on the college level, they pay and the teams have the hot pink. So someone could say, well, what are they really doing? Is this really helping breast cancer? Are you walking? Are you donating money? Would it perhaps be a better use of money if colleges and professional teams donated to breast cancer research as opposed to hot pink gear? But that becomes another form of the conversation. So is it really about protest, or is it the topic of the protest? And if we are bothered about, I guess, the perception of a lack of patriotism, so some of you raised comments about, we need to respect the flag, then are you a steward of enforcing respect for the flag in other spaces? There are pictures of Congress where not even half of them are standing up. And that's their job, if we really want to talk about it. If anyone should be respecting the flag, they should. Are we as diligent about everyone following a rule or a perspective that we deem important to ourselves, or is it only when certain groups? And that's the self-awareness that we have to ask ourselves. I think we also have to be mindful that we all have thoughts and opinions that are ugly, that don't come from the right place. And there are different levels of awareness that we come into, ideally, in our process of becoming. So the person that you might say, oh, you're just sexist, you're just racist, you're just ignorant, they might not even know. So understand that we have ways of looking at the world that have proven successful to get us to our place. And it's only until they're challenged, like when you were talking about your grandfather, that you feel comfortable enough to start reconciling the cognitive dissonance that appears. So when we start stripping people of their foundations of reality, we have to be mindful that that is an unnerving process. When you are telling me that the way in which I look at the world is no longer right, how then do I walk in this world? So we have to be patient. We have to be kind. We have to have empathy. And we have to respect that the path that one person takes might not look like mine. We might have different positions, but our interests might be the same. The person who is honoring the flag in one way and kneeling, which people say is still a form of respect, right? No one has mooned the flag. No one has burned the flag, right? So if someone kneeling, is that offensive? We start to have to ask ourselves, maybe I'm too easily offended. And maybe there are other things that should be offensive to me. I'll give you another example. In one of my classes, we were talking about what society values. And I threw out the statement that our society values the lives of pets more than the lives of children. And we discussed it. And they said, there's no way. I said, there's plenty of evidence to support what I just advanced. How many commercials do we see with Sarah McLachlan singing in the background? And we're looking at abused children in our country, not elsewhere. So we have to be mindful of the patterns that we see and filtering them on a certain level of critical thinking, evidence, and challenging ourselves. Am I bothered purely by this act, or am I bothered by the privilege and agency that you have taken in your particular position? And if that's what's driving me, I have to look at myself in the mirror. I'll stop there. Thanks for having me.
I'm going to turn it back over to the moderator, and thank you, Dr. Wright. We have so many professionals dealing in conflict resolution in this college, and if you need help, just seek one of them in all of the different schools. So we'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Moderator.
All right, thank you so much. We'll go to our finale, the privilege scenario.
Hi everybody, it's currently 1:30. Thank you for staying and sitting tight through all of the agreeing to disagree conversations. Welcome to our privileged portion of our program this afternoon. Again, thanks for being here. I'm Justin. I don't want to give you my last name yet. No, just kidding. So anyway, we're going to move. We've talked a little bit about race, being biracial, what it means to be actually representing the military, and then finally going from another spectrum of not being in the military at all and still having different perspectives on everything. So now we're going to talk strictly about privilege. Many of you guys probably come from upbringings, and personally I think this is what makes us more and more diverse. I heard Natalie ask a young lady over here earlier, or tell a young lady, you are diverse no matter if you're a Christian white lady. And you are, because that could be your socioeconomic upbringing. That could be the fact that your parents separated in the middle of your lifetime. That could mean that your mother lost her job, your father came from Nigeria as an immigrant and then married an American. So if you'll keep that in mind throughout the whole activity, I really appreciate it. So now my mini participants, group of 5 beautiful ladies, if you may, we will move forward to having an activity on privilege. So if you all will please line up a little bit above the wall, give yourself enough room to step forward and step back, and curtain. Okay, class, everybody please line up for me. It seems as that all of you are from different backgrounds. Now we're going to play an activity to help you better understand what your privilege looks like. What is privilege? Yes?
A special right, advantage, or immunity granted or available to a specific person or particular group.
Thank you for sharing. What are unearned privileges?
There are privileges in life that we have without any effort of our own to be granted.
And thank you for sharing. So now we're going to go into the activity where you will either step up or step back based on my statement and whether or not I tell you to step up or step back. You young ladies all come from very different backgrounds. Your parents could have came from a different upbringing in terms of where they immigrated from, and where your father had a job, whether or not your parents owned a home, etc. So we will move forward. Statement number 1, if your ancestors were forced to come to the United States, please take 1 step back. Thank you. And please stay where you are in line. Do not move back to the middle. If your primary ethnicity is American, please step forward. If your parents were professionals, i.e. doctors, lawyers, practitioners, etc., please step back. Forward. If you were ever ashamed or embarrassed of the clothes, house, car, or any of those things that were in your house, please step back. If you ever tried to change your appearance or behavior to avoid being judged, please step back. If there were people of color who worked in your household as servants, gardeners, etc., please step forward. If there were more than 50 books in your house when you were growing up, I would like for you to please take a step forward. If your parents and or guardians took you to galleries or vacations to Disney World or luxurious places, please step forward. If your family owned a house where you grew up, please step forward. And lastly, if your family rented their home where you grew up in, please step back. Participants, please remain in your positions as we continue the conversation. Look at your position, look at your positions of your classmates, please, and tell me, if I was going to give you a prize today, who would I afford the prize to?
Natalie. Maybe.
Do we agree it's Natalie? Okay, so tell me what happened in this activity.
Well, we moved all over the place.
I barely moved.
And ladies, how did this exercise make you feel?
I felt very privileged, but at the same time, I wish my family would have been able to like come home every day and talk about everyday things more and be more together, I guess.
And my family was able to get together and talk about things, but we still don't always know how I'm gonna pay for next semester's tuition.
I just felt ashamed because all y'all are moving ahead of me, so I thought I had more place in society regardless of how rich or poor I was. So.
I'm the curtain.
Thank you. We'll grab a few responses from the audience, and then that will be our hidden divide. What are your thoughts about this exercise and the students' comments? We always start off so slow. I know y'all gonna come around.
Here's a comment.
Sorry.
Okay, who's first? I don't care.
We go right in here.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I thought it was interesting. Okay. I thought it was interesting because Natalie was first in line, and then I would say that Tara was the most privileged behind that, but she thought she was missing out on everyday things and just like plain family life, so you never know what somebody feels like they're missing. And you hear a lot of people judging others based on their socioeconomic status, no matter what it is. You can hear people saying, I hate rich people, or you can say like, oh, they can't afford this, and kind of turning their nose up at it. So you never know what somebody is missing or what they actually do need in their life, and you shouldn't be able to say that based on 4 interactions with them in a class.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. Yes.
It just like goes back to my thought earlier. I went to Chancellor Davenport's speech. She's the first keynote opener the other night. And just my thought on that really quick was that she said she's like, I don't like, she did this in her hand. She said, I don't like when people tell me I'm privileged. And I can totally relate to that because it's just like when I said, I'm your average white female, I'm straight, and I'm Catholic. And people often look at me and say, this girl knows nothing, can't comment on diversity, can't comment on this. And it goes back to that thing, when someone looks at me and says, you're privileged, I say, I wouldn't have been in this country if my ancestors didn't come. I wouldn't be at this university if my dad wasn't the first person to go to college and then later become a doctor and afford this opportunity for me in my life. I wouldn't be where I am today with a lot of the diverse socioeconomic things that I've experienced in my life. So I love to be able to see that, like, you would think stereotypically that the white girl is going to be up front and have, you know, all of these things in her life. So it goes back, and I really liked how the chancellor on that first night talked about it. You have to recognize where your privilege comes from. I am privileged to be here and to be able to come to an out-of-state school for 4 years and not have debt on my shoulders. That is privilege. And I can take that on. Yeah, exactly. But in the same sense, I don't like when people are like, here's this white girl, she's privileged. She doesn't understand what it's like to maybe deal with racism and things that other people unfortunately do have to deal with. So I do like to be able to take perspective and realize diversity still means being white and being black and being Asian and all these other things.
Yeah. Great answer. Diversity is literally you and me, and not me or you. But it literally takes all of us to create that diversity spectrum. One of my favorite instructors, she happens to be in this room, it's Alice Bolenberg. I took her class my senior year, and she made that point to where, like you said, being a white woman, not feeling like you belong in the diversity spectrum. But she always taught us that it could be 3 white women in front of me with blonde hair and blue eyes, and that's still diverse because they all come from different places. They've all experienced different lifestyles, and they all have lived through different things that we may know nothing about, but we think we know based on their appearance that they're okay or that life is grand for them. So definitely keep that open mind and just consider the differences in lifestyle and the different walk day by day that all of us go through. We all deal with something, whether we show it or we don't, whether we cry outside or whether we cry in our room with the door closed. We all deal with something, and we are stronger as a people when we comfort each other and work together.
I will also say I commend you for being able to acknowledge privilege. I feel like that's where, of course, in dialogue and debate, the last thing that needs to happen is people attacking each other like, hey, you're privileged, so you're never going to understand me. Like, that's not the way to ever go about it. But I still feel like there's a way, like, I mean, in certain ways, you know, being a Black woman. Probably not the most privileged thing to be in America right now, not the hottest thing all the time. But I do understand that I'm a university student. I'm going to graduate from college. Not everyone can do that. Like, I am privileged in certain ways. So being able to acknowledge it, that's like a huge step.
Oh, thank you, Natalie.
Thank you. A
Ladies
round of
and-
applause
okay.
for all of you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have had great dialoguing today. I want to really thank my number one top moderator, Mr. Julian Wright. Give him a round of applause. I want to also thank my Diversity Student Leader Society people for the dramatization. And I want to thank our professors for taking the time to bring you here. Have we had pretty good dialogue? Do we need to do this more often? Well, let's do it. Please evaluate and, oh, ladies and gentlemen, 5 to 7, we will have the festival, cultural performance, free hamburgers and hot dogs prepared by our deans and directors and staff people, entertainment by your organization. Go Vols.
Go Vols. Thank y'all so much. Have a great rest of your day, and thank you for experiencing Diversity Week 2017 with us.